Have you ever felt like someone was trying to control every little thing in your life, even when you weren't hurting anyone? That's exactly what happened to me. I never thought parking my camper on my own property would turn into a full-on battle with the Homeowners Association. But let me tell you, this fight became bigger than just where I could park. It turned into a fight for fairness, freedom, and standing up to people who thought they had all the power. It started with something so simple. I love camping. For me, those weekends in the mountains, sitting by a fire, and waking up to fresh air are priceless. I worked hard to buy my campers, and I took pride in keeping them clean and safe. Whenever I wasn't traveling, I parked them neatly on the side of my house. They weren't blocking anyone. They weren't an eyesore. They were just sitting quietly, waiting for my next trip. But one morning, I opened my mailbox and found a letter from the HOA. At first, I thought it was some community update, or maybe a reminder about landscaping. Instead, it was a warning. Bold letters screamed at me. Remove your campers immediately. Failure to do so will result in fines. I couldn't believe it. My campers were on my property. I wasn't breaking any laws. Yet here they were, threatening me like I was some criminal. The letter said campers and RVs were not allowed because they ruined the neighborhood's appearance. That phrase burned in my mind. Who decided what was beautiful or ugly? My campers were in great condition. They weren't rusting. They weren't falling apart. If anything, they showed that I enjoyed life and had adventures. I called the HOA office, hoping this was just a misunderstanding. But instead of listening, they doubled down. The woman on the phone spoke like she was reading from a script. Sir, campers are prohibited in this neighborhood. If you don't comply, fines will be added to your account. I asked her to show me where in the rules it said that. She hesitated, then pointed me to a vague section about maintaining community standards. In other words, they had no clear rule. They just wanted to control me because they thought they could. From that day on, I started receiving constant letters. First, they fined me $50, then $100, then $250. The amounts kept increasing, as if they wanted to scare me into giving up. Every envelope from the HOA felt like a threat, a reminder that they were watching me. At first, I considered just moving the campers to a storage lot. But then I thought, why should I pay hundreds of dollars every month to hide something that wasn't hurting anyone? Why should I give in to rules that didn't even exist in writing? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. This wasn't about campers anymore. This was about standing up for myself, and maybe even for others in my neighborhood who were too scared to push back. So I decided I was not moving those campers. That's when the HOA took things to the next level. One evening, I came home from work to find a bright orange sticker slapped on my camper, almost like I was being shamed in public. The notice said if I didn't remove it within 72 hours, they would take further action. Imagine the humiliation of having your property marked like it was abandoned, when in reality it was perfectly fine. Neighbors started whispering. Some supported me, saying they admired that I wasn't backing down. Others avoided me, probably afraid the HOA would target them next if they spoke up. It felt like I was living under constant surveillance, where one wrong move could turn into another letter, another fine, another threat. The pressure was heavy, but instead of breaking me, it fueled me. I started documenting everything. Every letter, every phone call, every fine. I kept it all. I even took pictures of my campers from every angle to prove they were well maintained. Deep down, I knew this wasn't going to end with just letters. The HOA was itching to make an example out of me, and I had to be ready. Sure enough, the next blow came harder than ever. I received a certified letter saying the HOA was taking me to court. My stomach sank as I read the words. They wanted a judge to force me to remove my campers and pay all the fines they had piled up against me. According to them, I was lowering property values and disturbing the harmony of the neighborhood. Harmony? The only thing disturbing the harmony was their constant harassment. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, paper spread everywhere, wondering if I should just give in. Fighting an HOA in court sounded terrifying. What if I lost? What if I had to pay thousands of dollars? What if they put a lien on my house? These thoughts kept me awake, and I'll be honest, I was scared. But then another thought came to me. If I gave up now, what message would that send? That they could bully anyone into submission? That their power was absolute? No, I couldn't let that happen. I decided I was going to fight back. The next morning, I started researching lawyers who specialize in HOA disputes. To my surprise, I found out I wasn't the first person to go through something like this. HOAs all across the country have been abusing their power, and plenty of homeowners had fought back and won. That gave me hope. When I met with my lawyer for the first time, I unloaded the whole story. He listened carefully, flipping to the stack of letters I had brought. Then he looked up and said, "You have a strong case. They can't just invent rules as they go. If the covenants don't clearly say campers are banned, then they don't have a leg to stand on." Hearing that felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I didn't feel powerless. I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could win. From that moment forward, things changed. Instead of dreading the next letter from the HOA, I started preparing for battle. Every insult they threw at me, every fine they tried to slap on me, became more evidence in my favor. And trust me, the HOA did not back down. If anything, they became more aggressive. They sent me pictures of my own campers, as if I didn't already know they were there. They even accused me of damaging the aesthetic balance of the neighborhood, a phrase so ridiculous that even my lawyer laughed when he read it. The case was building and the tension was growing. Neighbors started asking me quietly, "How's it going? Are you really going to fight them?" The date for the court hearing was set. I'll never forget circling on my calendar, knowing it would be the day everything changed. Whether I won or lost, one thing was certain: I was done being pushed around. And that's where Section 1 leaves us, with a battle brewing, a fight against an HOA that thought they were untouchable, and a homeowner who decided enough was enough. But what happened in that courtroom? How did the judge respond when the HOA tried to justify their endless fines? Did I walk away defeated, or did I finally get the justice I had been waiting for? Stick with me, because in Section 2, the real fireworks begin. The courtroom drama, the shocking statements, and the final verdict will leave you speechless. And trust me, you'll want to hear how the HOA ended up paying my fees instead of the other way around. Backhand index pointing right, so don't miss Section 2. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and stay tuned, because the best part of this story is still to come. The morning of the court hearing felt like the weight of the entire neighborhood was on my shoulders. I woke up early, barely able to eat breakfast, my mind racing with everything that could go wrong. What if the judge believed the HOA's lies? What if all their polished lawyers painted me as some selfish homeowner destroying the community? But then I reminded myself, I had the truth, I had the evidence, and most importantly, I had courage. Walking into that courthouse, I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The HOA board members were already there, dressed in stiff suits, whispering to each other like they had already won. Their lawyer was flipping through a thick binder, his face full of confidence. They looked at me with smirks, as if I was out of my league, but I didn't let their arrogance shake me. I sat down beside my lawyer, stacked my folders of evidence neatly, and told myself, this is it. No turning back now. When the judge walked in and called the case, the room fell silent. The HOA's lawyer stood first, launching into a dramatic speech. He talked about community standards, property values, and the importance of harmony. He made it sound like my 2 campers were destroying the entire neighborhood. He showed pictures of my campers parked beside my house, circling them in red ink like they were some kind of crime scene. He claimed neighbors had complained, though he didn't present a single name or statement. He insisted the HOA had every right to enforce its rules, even if those rules weren't written clearly. The judge listened politely, nodding here and there, but didn't give away much. Then it was my turn. My lawyer stood up calm and steady, and began breaking down their argument piece by piece. He pointed out the obvious. Nowhere in the official HOA documents did it say campers were banned. The vague phrase about community standards was not a rule. It was an opinion. He held up the letters I had received, letter after letter, each one filled with threats, fines, and intimidation. He explained how the HOA had escalated the situation without ever proving I had broken a clear rule. He even showed the court the orange sticker they had slapped on my camper, pointing out how it humiliated me publicly for no valid reason. Then came the part that made the judge lean forward. My lawyer explained how the HOA kept increasing fines without legal grounds, essentially extorting money from me for something I wasn't required to change. He argued that this wasn't just about campers. It was about abuse of power. When it was my chance to speak, I told the judge my story in my own words. I spoke about how much I love camping, how I worked hard to buy those campers, and how I took care of them. I explained that they weren't blocking anyone, weren't hurting anyone, and weren't lowering property values. I shared how it felt to be harassed in my own neighborhood, how every letter felt like a threat, and how the stress had weighed on me and my family. I'll never forget what the judge said next. He turned to the HOA's lawyer and asked a simple question. Can you show me, right here, where in your covenants it says campers are banned? The lawyer froze. He shuffled through his thick binder, flipping pages back and forth. His face started to sweat. He stammered, Well, Your Honor, it falls under maintaining the aesthetic. The judge cut him off. No, show me the rule. Where does it clearly say that campers are prohibited? There was silence. The lawyer had nothing. The board members looked at each other nervously, their earlier confidence crumbling. That's when I knew the tide had turned. The judge leaned back, removed his glasses, and shook his head. I don't see a rule here. What I do see is an association overstepping its authority. You cannot invent restrictions after the fact. Homeowners have rights, and those rights cannot be trampled because of personal opinions or vague language. It felt like lightning struck the room. For months, I had been treated like a villain. But in that moment, the truth was shining so bright it couldn't be ignored. Then the judge delivered the part that left the HOA speechless. He said not only was I allowed to keep my campers, but the HOA would have to pay for my legal fees. All those months of stress, all the hours I spent documenting everything, all the money I feared losing, it all flipped back onto them. The board members' faces turned red with shock. Their lawyers slumped down, defeated. Meanwhile, I felt this rush of relief and victory like nothing I had ever experienced. It wasn't just about winning. It was about justice. Walking out of that courthouse, the air felt different. The sky seemed brighter. My steps felt lighter. Neighbors who had been quietly rooting for me finally came forward, congratulating me, saying I had given them hope. Some even admitted they had been mistreated by the HOA in other ways, but never dared to fight back. My win showed them that it was possible. And as for my campers, they stayed exactly where they were, right on my property where they belonged. Every time I looked at them, I didn't just see vehicles for adventure. I saw a symbol of standing up for myself. A reminder that no matter how powerful someone seems, if they are wrong, they can be held accountable. But here's the truth I want you to take from this story. You don't have to let people walk over you. Whether it's an HOA, a boss, or anyone else who tries to control you unfairly, you have a voice. You have rights. And sometimes, all it takes is the courage to say enough and stand firm. The HOA thought they could scare me. They thought their letters and fines would break me. But in the end, their arrogance cost them money, credibility, and respect. And all I had to do was refuse to be silent. So if you ever find yourself in a similar battle, remember my story. Document everything. Know your rights. Don't be afraid to fight back, because the law is not always on the side of the bully. It's on the side of justice. And to anyone watching this right now, let me leave you with one final thought. You are stronger than you think. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Backhand index pointing right if you found value in my story. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs encouragement. And subscribe for more real stories about standing up, fighting back, and winning against the odds. Because sometimes the little guy doesn't just fight. Sometimes the little guy wins.